Hi, this is Luke Scanlon. I'm now at the site of where the first shot heard around the world was fired. Where I'm standing now, picture this: 400 militia, British subjects to the crown. They had just heard from the famous quote-unquote ride of Paul Revere, where Prescott had made it through to warn the American militia in Concord that the British were coming from Boston to take away their guns, their ammunition, and 4 cannons that were stored about a mile up in front of me at a farm. What happened at this point in time in history is that current day, right now, would be 1775, April 19th. 2 years prior is when the Tea Party had occurred. The Tea Party was where British colonists in America had stated, we don't want to pay a tax on tea that we had no representation in actually allowing. The colonists taxed themselves. They got together and argued about what was going to become law, what was not, much as we do today. And they had a right in raising their own tax. But the British Parliament chose to incite the Tea Party tax, or pardon me, the tea tax, in 1773. And shortly after that tax was passed, then we had the famous Boston Tea Party, where all of that tea was thrown into the water. For the next 2 years, the British Parliament could not look upon that Tea Party and turn their head away. They had to do something. So what they did is that they revoked Massachusetts' right to form a government. They took away the legislative body, and they instilled what we would call today martial law. They had a military government that made commands on what people could and couldn't do. The Boston Harbor was completely locked down. There was no trade going in or out. Immediately, once that blockade was instilled, hundreds of people lost their jobs. The economy was devastated. And so, as we're standing right now, we're 20 miles or so from Boston, arguably the largest seaport at that time in what we know today as America, and is completely owned by the British. But out here in Concord, British subjects, colonists, we own this town. And so the famous ride of Paul Revere, one if by land, two if by sea. When the signal was given, Paul Revere and many other men spread out all over the countryside in a very well-orchestrated ride that night of April 19th, 1775, to warn of 700 British troops leaving Boston and coming to Concord to seize what British spies had told them were hidden stolen weapons, ammunition, things to use in war. And so those 700 troops were marching from 5 p.m. on April 19th to 5:30 a.m., April 19th, 1775, to go through the entire town of Concord, go into homes, look for weapons, look for guns, look for muskets, and ammunition, and to destroy it. At the same time, while not destroying any private personal property. So, at 5:30 a.m. on April the 19th, we had British soldiers come here. 96 stayed here at this bridge, which is behind me, and another 120 went on down the road to try to find some cannons. At this point in time, we had American colonists that had been warned. I said American colonists. Colonists here under the British Crown had been warned. And from Prescott, who got through that ride, Paul Revere was captured, but Prescott got through. They warned the entire countryside that the British were coming. And so they all gathered in Concord, and then they moved over here to the top of that hill. While the statue is right here, that hill is actually my favorite place in this area, because that's where the decision was made. If you can picture it, at 5:30 in the morning, I've got 400 American colonists, or not American technically, but colonists gathered on that hill deciding what to do about their future. Were they going to fight for liberty? Were they going to fire upon a British subject, which would amount to treason? From that place, they could see British soldiers down, milling about. Some were guarding the bridge, some were poking around in different sides of this road, waiting for their other British detachment to come back down from that road. At that moment up on that hill, they decided, once they had seen smoke coming from Concord, which is about a mile or so that way. They thought the British were burning their town, and they decided enough is enough. We are going to protect our liberty, even if it takes our life. They came down that hill in a very military fashion. By all first-hand reports, the British soldiers that were on this side of the bridge fled to that side of the bridge and attempted to take up arms. From this point, where I'm standing now, we had colonists prepared to die for liberty, firing upon British subjects on that side of the river. That day, two colonists died, and two British soldiers died, and a couple more were mortally wounded. But that was a moment, and what Waldo Emerson penned as being the shot heard round the world, that's when the American Revolution began. And what's important to know about that is that the American Revolution never really ended. We're still doing that today. The American Revolution formed a republic democracy. We're still trying to have our citizens be informed, care about the process, and understand what the implications are of government. Today, there are many people that don't care. They don't feel like they have a voice, or their voice doesn't matter. That's exactly what people in power want. People that want power, they want for common citizens to not understand the issues. Today, I'm standing at the field where Americans were willing to die for issues that they understood. So my hope is that as you read this, and as you watch this video, that you understand the issues that are going on today. You cut past the propaganda that is coming at you from all angles, both from the Republican side and from the Democratic side, and understand what the truth is and what your liberty means to you and how you can enforce your liberty through your vote. So, I'm standing where men died for freedom. I hope that we can all take a lesson from that and understand what freedom means to us.